Well, in Italy, today marks 3 years since the Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni took office. The far-right leader has in the past expressed admiration for Benito Mussolini, but in office she's shown herself to be quite pragmatic. She steadied Italy's economy and overseen one of the country's longest-lived governments in recent decades. There have nevertheless been some accusations of democratic backsliding from some people in Italy. Well, we're going to go now to Rome, to our correspondent there, Seema Gupta. Good to talk to you, Seema. OK, then, so 3 years on, how do Italians think she's doing?
Well, 3 years on since Italy saw the election of its first female prime minister, and the country that is known for having short-lived governments in the past, it seems to be doing well. In fact, her government released a statement marking the fact that it's the third longest-serving government of the Italian Republic. So on her side, in terms of the opinion polls, her Brothers of Italy party, her far-right party, has over the 26% that it actually got during the election and in 2022. During recent regional elections, her party saw an increase in support, and her personal approval rating is at some 42%. Now, as far as the economy is concerned, borrowing costs here in Italy are now lower than that of France. And in fact, the fiscal prudence in the country has been praised by many, with the Fitch ratings agency upgrading Italy's credit rating, a move that Ms. Meloni herself said showed that her government was on the right path. Now, critics, some argue that perhaps that was simply because she hasn't really done very much in terms of changing the status quo and dealing with some much-needed structural reforms. But for the moment, it looks as if things are fairly stable. And then internationally, we know that her party was considered to be Eurosceptic, but since she's come into power, she's very much working with the European Union, particularly on the issue of Ukraine, but also on moves that the EU has taken to slow down illegal immigration, particularly from North Africa. And then, of course, she's been lauded for her access to the US President Donald Trump. She's working very much on forging close ties across the Atlantic.
You've talked there about, what Italians think she's doing right and perhaps sometimes wrong. And as you say, Italian prime ministers are not known for lasting that long. What is it? Is she good at the politics as well? What has made her such a stabilising force in Italy?
Well, she's known to be a very fiery and effective communicator, and that helps as far as the electorate is concerned that may be wary of political elites. On top of that, she's worked very well in mediating and making sure that her coalition, her right-wing coalition, with the Deputy Prime Minister Matteo Salvini on one side and the other Deputy Prime Minister Antonio Tajani of the Forza Italia party on the other side, she's worked on making them function together. And as far as the economy is concerned, I mentioned about critics saying she's not really dealing with some of the structural reforms that Italy needs, things like low wages, the fact that there's a low birth rate and a brain drain in this country. But that said, the country is very much getting a lot of help from the EU in terms of post-COVID recovery funds. Italy, if you recall, got the largest chunk of money from that. And some say that that money is really masking the country's weak growth. Some even argue that without that EU recovery money, Italy might even be in a recession. Now, on top of that, of course, there's also the issue of no credible alternative. The left of the country remains deeply divided. We saw the centre-left Democratic Party and the Five Star Movement putting together joint candidates for the recent regional elections, but there's no clear leader. So in that respect, there's no one else to turn to. So Meloni, for many, might just seem like the candidate that's in place right now. So for the moment, we'll have to see. Now, the EU recovery money is expected to come in a new tranche in 2026, but that's the end of it. We'll have to see what impact that will have once that money has been handed out and there's no more money coming in that front, how the economy will do. And then we'll see whether this government does last till the next election that's scheduled in 2027.